Yo! What's up, GameLeaper? It's the Jizz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 15 best champions for patch 12.8, which will be hitting the Rift in about a week's time. So if you want to know the champions you should master before the patch hits, make sure you stick around for the whole video, and we will also be giving you the items, the runes, the summoner spells, everything you need to know about the champion before you hit the Rift with them. And of course, if you do want to play these champions like the best in the world, make sure you check out the GameLeap website in the description and comment section, because our challenger players and coaches are uploading so many videos a week, man. We're talking up to 20 of these bad boys, and they are so informative. They are made by the best to help you become the best, so make sure you check those links out, and let's get into the juicy countdown. Now, starting off at number 15, we're in the mid lane and talking about Neeko. And ever since those recent buffs came in, Neeko has been one of the best performing champs on the Rift. And ever since those two patches where Riot buffed Neeko, she has become a very solid champion. We can see that from these stats, she's got very good win rates, and the buffs to her damage, her hitbox, even her W have made her a lot more annoying to play against, and honestly just a more carryable champion. Now, everything on this page should make sense, going Ledge Q, Flash and Ignite, and then maxing your Q followed by E and then your W, but please make sure as far as your items go, we are going for the magic penetration build with Rocket Belt. The dash is really useful, especially when we're using her ultimate, and then Sorcerer Shoes and Zhonya's Hourglass. Now, I know Zhonya's doesn't give you magic penetration, but the active is extremely useful because you will be in close proximity to the enemy champions, and using that to buy yourself a bit of time, to maybe get another E off, or for your teammates to come into the fight and save you. But Neeko, excellent mid laner, she comes in at number 15. Now, ahead of Neeko, filling the number 14 position, we're heading to the bot lane and talking about Lucian, which is kind of exciting because Lucian has not been mentioned enough in recent times as being one of the strongest champions, but he is. And thanks to the AD ratio buff and his passive, and the new Vigilance passive he has, it makes him really good with a lot of enchanter supports. So if we think of supports like Senna, Soraka, Sona, Nami, of course, the Electrocute tech, Lucian has just become way more playable. And look at these win rates. This is in Platinum and above, so in almost 80,000 matches for Lucian to have a 52% win rate, because he does take a little bit of skill to play, this really tells us how good he is. Even after the Gale Force active nerf, so the cooldown is 110 seconds, it has not stopped this dude from carving up the rank scene. So if you want to dominate the bot lane from the get-go, Lucian is the pick for you. Now, staying in the bot lane for just a second, number 13 on the countdown, this is the Crank. And for all you Blitzcrank mains out there, what a season it's been. With Glacial Augment, it's giving you a bit more power in the bot lane, and with the current meta with lots of enchanter supports being picked, Blitzcrank loves them. Land one rocket grab, they are dead, and you will snowball out of control. And also, if we think about that Gale Force nerf from last patch, so the active is on 110 second cooldown, these champions like Lucian, like Jinx, like Caitlyn, they just have less ability to dodge the rocket grab, so you have an even better chance of killing them, and Blitzcrank comes in at number 13. Now, number 12 on the countdown, this is Kayn, the first jungler on this list, and for Kayn at the moment, what a champion he is. It doesn't matter if you go Shadow Assassin or Rast, this guy is just so strong. Ever since 12.3 when Riot buffed Gore Drinker, well, they buffed the attack damage in it, but they also buffed Death Stance, Black Cleaver for Kayn, because more attack damage, more ability haste in these items, and Death Stance, the healing, is scaling off your bonus AD. This is why it works so well, and even if you're going blue Kayn because Gore Drinker is giving you more attack damage, you can actually go this instead of going something like Prowler's Claw. You will still deal enough damage to kill the enemy squishy champions, but just make sure, if you are going to clear your camps in the early game, to put 2 points in Q at level 3, then put a point in your W at level 4, but please remember if you're jungling to react to the map. Stay flexible. Now, beating Kayn to the number 11 position, if my water bottle makes that sound again, it's going in the bin. This is Jax coming in at number 11, and maybe TF Blade is responsible for these stats, but this is in high reload, so the hockey stick having at least a 55% win rate, it's giving us a bit of a message, because ever since the recent Jax buffs, he's been having a lot more success, particularly in higher reloads. And the extra damage in your W in particular is the real power here. But what's interesting for you Jax players out there is actually your build. You can see at the bottom here that in 53 matches, people are building Frozen Heart after Divine Sundra and then Steel Caps. Now, why Frozen Heart? Well, if we think about it, in the top lane and against lots of team compositions, some of the enemy champions will rely on attack speed. But for Jax, it's also useful because of the armor. So if you're against a lot of attack damage, and if the enemy top laner builds attack damage, you become a lot harder to kill. But also the ability haste gives you a bit of offensive power as well, because with Divine Sundra and Lethal Tempo, it's not like you need that much more to kill someone else, especially with a W max. So this has seen Jax have even more success, so this is why he has to be on this countdown. Now, starting off the top 10, we have a champion who is getting changed in 12.8, and I'm kind of talking about Poppy generally here. So if you play her in the top lane, in the jungle, or maybe even as a support, because the buff that I'm really looking at is the W buff. The cooldown is going down by 4 seconds, so even if you don't max this second after your Q, it's a lot lower. And when the mid to late game comes around, depending on when you max your steadfast presence, it's going to be on a 12-second cooldown, and obviously less because of the ability haste you will have from your items. And remember, this ability, this is actually why Poppy gets picked in pro play, because because of it. So against heavy dive compositions, they might have a Camille on the other team, they might have a J4, they might have a Xin Zhao, a Nautilus. It's incredible at stopping these heavy divers from actually getting on your backline, and also Poppy's ultimate is getting buffed as well, and the cooldown on it is getting refunded. So instead of being 30 seconds, it's now 15 seconds. So Unreal changes are going to hit Poppy in 12.8, and I'm kind of scared for Poppy mains, if there are any, because I think she's going to be giga broken, so make sure you watch out for that. Now coming in at number 9, we're talking about Fiora, and just like Jax, this bruiser is loving the meta at the moment, because in the top lane we're seeing a few more tanks being played, and Fiora, because she's so good against them, because of her vitals, she will just completely wreck them. And just like I mentioned for Kayn, ever since those items got changed in 12.3, so Gore Drink more attack damage, Ravenous Hydra more attack damage, Death Stance blocking magic damage, and healing off your bonus AD, more Mount Morty is doing pretty much the same thing. It is too good for the ground duelist. So if you thought Jax was pretty good in the top lane in the 1v1, Fiora honestly is even better. Now ahead of Fiora, we're heading back to the mid lane, and we've got to talk about Ahri. Well, we don't really have to, because hopefully by now all of you know how good this champion is, and just look at this with Flash and Ignite for me. Over 126,000 matches, and she has a 52% win rate. So congratulations, Riot, for not doing anything to this champion in 12.8. So for the majority of players, she's broken. This isn't just in high reload, which goes to show how consistent she is. So if we look here at your rune page, this is very standard stuff. Your skill path, this is very standard. Just remember to start W, much better than starting Q. And if you look at your items going Everfrost, Sorkshoe, Shadow Flame, yes, this might be the standard, but the point is the build is too good. Everfrost being 2,800 gold ever since Riot lowered it in the preseason. Sorkshoes for the magic penetration, because you do lack a little bit of damage when you go Everfrost instead of something like Luden's Tempest, and Shadow Flame for a nice chunk of AP and a bit more magic penetration. So Ahri, one of the most consistent mid laners, you can blind pick, you can counter pick, works with pretty much any jungler and in any team composition. Incredible champion, and if you are a mid laner and you're not playing her, you are kidding yourself. But one champion who might be able to carry a game even harder than Ahri, well, this is the cockroach Kha'Zix, and I don't know how he does it. He just evades the grasp of the balance team from nerfs or maybe adjustments, because I can't remember the last time this champion was not straight up broken. And you can see that with First Strike and the new Treasure Hunter rune, these two are going to accelerate your scaling because you're getting more gold in the early game when you gank, when you skirmish. This is really useful. And in platinum and above, in almost 8,000 matches, this setup has over a 53% win rate. And to be honest, there isn't really much else to be said. Just try to hit level 3 on him as safe as possible, and that's pretty much all you have to do, guys. But what about if you don't want to play one of these junglers or mid laners or top laners? Well, what about Vayne as an AD carry? But maybe not even as an AD carry. I'm also talking about Vayne potentially in the top lane, because this is where she can also shine. Now, it might be a little riskier because you will be on your own, but the rewards can be even bigger because you don't have that support who's running it down. But regardless, Vayne with lethal tempo, once you get this to max stacks, you will have 0 weaknesses. The extra range it gives you is really what you're lacking as a champion. So lethal tempo covering this up makes you very powerful. And what's fascinating as well about this rune page is Treasure Hunter, because Vayne is a scaling champion. So Treasure Hunter, by getting those takedowns in the early and mid game, it's going to get you to your late game spikes a lot quicker, which is when you can take over games. Just make sure as far as your skill order goes, you are maxing your W first, followed by your Q. So this is important to remember, but apart from that, locking in Vayne, you've got a great chance of winning. Now another lethal tempo shield bow abuser is coming in at number 5, and unlike Vayne, this is a champion who last patch got buffed, and this is Yasuo. And for Yas, his base HP going up and his ultimate's cooldown in the early game going down, you've got to be joking me. Like, surely not. Is that really what this game needs? Apparently so. And you can see that with Yasuo's win rate being almost 53% in platinum and above with this rune page, surely that's too high. Like, I thought this champion was meant to have a high skill ceiling. I mean, I guess he kind of does, but this tells us he's way too easy to make work. You can probably first time him, have no idea about what to max, have no idea about how your cooldowns work or any combos, and you still have a great chance of carrying. But let's say you want to play a champion who's a little more methodical than Yasuo. Well, how about Veigar in the mid lane? Because ever since Riot buffed his Q, so you're getting more stacks, Veigar has been in an insane position. The champion has had such a high win rate for the entirety of Season 12, and that's going to continue next patch. No buffs or no nerfs to his items, to his runes, so this is super nice. Just make sure if you are playing Veigar to take Predator with Ingenious Hunter, which reduces the cooldown, this is really important to get in range so you can land your Event Horizon onto the enemy champions and trap them in the circle. And it's also important here to max your E second. We want the cooldown to be as low as possible so we can get multiple Event Horizons off during those mid to late game teamfights. Just be aware that as far as your build goes, you can either go Lucidity Boots or Sorkshoes depending on how much magic damage your team already has. Everfrost is an essential mythic though, because the active allows you to trap those enemy champions in your Event Horizon, land your W, and of course your Q and your ultimate, and then we want Death Cap for the pure AP. But there is one champion a bit like Veigar who has been changed this season, and this is Rengar holding the number 3 position, and ever ever since a couple of patches ago, the changes that came into Rango, he's been dominating. Whether it's in the jungle or in the top lane, he is just killing it across the board. So with First Strike, maximizing the damage when you come out of your ultimate, or if you just jump at someone from a brush, you're going to get a lot of gold from that damage, and because you want to hit level 6 as soon as possible, this is going to allow you to hit level 6 with items. The gold you get is super valuable, but do make sure guys to run Relentless Hunter in your runes because the movement speed is so valuable. This will allow you to get into position, to ambush enemy champions in brushes, and also to use your ultimate and get around the map. But beating him to number 2, well, this is everyone's favorite top laner, and I'm not really going to go into much detail here because why on earth do I have to? Look at your screens. This is Riven, and just look at these stats. Are you kidding? Why is this champion still being allowed to go from patch to patch without copping a few jabs? It's unreal to me. She's meant to be one of the most difficult champions to play. In fact, she is. She's very hard. The animation cancels, the combos. So can someone tell me why even in lower elos this champ has a super good win rate and you can just pick her first timer and probably win? And just like I mentioned for Fiora and Kayn, the 12.3 changes to the bruiser items, Gore Drinker, Black Cleaver, more Malmortius, Death Stance. There is more attack damage, there is more ability haste, and guess what these two stats are? They are Riven. These stats are this champion in a nutshell. So when they get buffed, Riven indirectly gets buffed, and this is why she is the number 2 strongest champion for 12.8. But she is beaten to the number 1 position by a champion, well, he might be picked by one Trickster bit, but he's actually being picked a lot at the moment by newer players, and this is Pyke. Now you might be like, why on earth would you recommend Pyke? Well, if you play Pyke in the mid lane or in the bot lane, he is the best carry champion on the Rift at the moment because of the Umbral Glaive buff from last patch, so it's cheaper, and the passive is really useful because you're clearing vision more often, and you are such a good roamer, especially when you have your Ghost Water dive going. And the great thing about Pyke is that he works in any elo. The playstyle as well is so good for solo queue because really you're sacrificing farm to just make plays around the map, and solo queue is so chaotic. Pyke is the ultimate capitalizer on these types of games. Just remember that a few patches ago Riot buffed your Q's damage, so even its base damage at rank 1, this is 100. So you're no slouch in the early laning phase where you think you might be, especially against rage champions who might bully you. If they overstep the mark, you can easily kill them. So Pyke is the number 1 champ for 12.8. Let me know guys in the comment section any questions, any thoughts you have on the countdown, and also make sure to leave a like on the video if you want these videos to continue. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been Coach Peace.